everybody, it's Joe Parrott, founder of the Ladies Working Dog Group. Are you feeling stuck with your gun dog training? Trust me, you're not alone, and that's exactly why you need to be here. Every week, we're bringing you the best tips and hacks to make training your gun dog easy peasy. We'll keep it straightforward, no fuss, just actionable guidance that you can put straight to use. So let's get started.
And welcome to this week's Found It, Fetched It. Today we're going to be talking about, is gun dog training just for people that are going to go out and work their dogs? I'm Gemma Martin and I'm joined this week with Sam Thornycroft-Taylor. How are you, Sam?
I'm really good, thanks, Gem. How are you?
Amazing. It's a lot drier here than you, apparently.
It's horizontal here today.
No such thing as bad weather, Sam, just wrong clothing. Cool. So do you get many people asking you about gun dog training and whether it's right for them or things like that?
I do. I'd say probably a good maybe 30% of our client base are those that have no intention of taking their dog out on the sheep field, but they want to fulfill the dog's give them mental stimulation, but also keeps them bonded, engaged, focused, and fulfills their natural instincts, their desires. You?
Yeah, exactly that. We get lots of people saying, oh, but I don't really want to work my dog. I don't think I need to do gun dog training. Do you do any scent work instead? And whilst Nikki does do scent work, after a conversation saying, actually, you don't need to work your dog on a shoe. It's just training at a high level. And actually, if you break gun dog training down, all it is just general obedience outside around natural distractions and things. It's appropriate for any dog in my eyes. They don't even have to be a gun dog breed. Whilst gun dog breeds will probably enjoy certain aspects of it more, we've had all sorts of breeds come along to our gun dog courses, even a Bichon Frise cross, which ended up retrieving rabbit dummies and things. So any dog can do it. What do you think the sort of biggest benefits for people starting to do gun dog training with their dogs is?
I think there are loads of benefits. So I think you can, if you look at it from the dog's point of view, the dog is doing something with its owner. So that helps build the engagement, it helps build the bond, it helps better the relationship. But you also get the social side of it. Once you've taught your dog the initial bits and you reach a certain level, you meet up with friends, you can join group classes, and your dog gets to experience working around other dogs as well. So like you said, it's that high level obedience, but keeping the dog doing something, giving the dog a job. We've all often said, certainly with behavioral work, if you don't give a dog a job, it's going to go and find its own job. And that, unfortunately, is one that we're not always that keen on when the dog starts self-rewarding. So being able to pinpoint its mind and its focus to a particular role, it benefits everybody.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's probably one of the biggest things we see is people come to us and their dogs have already gone rogue and self-employed because they haven't been given a job to do. And actually, I don't think their owners have fully appreciated what all the breeding and etc. has gone in to make their dog what it is and what they're genetically hardwired to want to do. So yeah, we end up with owners that are just banging heads with their dogs because their dog wants to do one thing that it's programmed to do, and the owners want to enjoy a nice peaceful walk in the countryside with their dog with them and not 2 counties away hunting for rabbits and things. And it's getting them to understand that actually, in order to work together, they need to appreciate what each other want to do and try and find this sort of happy medium where the dog can fulfill its natural drives and the human's happy that it's not way off somewhere else. What do you think?
I think it's exactly that. I met someone a few weeks ago who we were discussing the benefits of quartering. So for anybody listening, quartering is hunting with your dog in a sort of set zigzag figure of 8 pattern, pretty much flashing birds in the beating line type thing. But I was explaining quartering to this client that I'd met, and she said to me, but I don't know why I need to teach my dog this, because my dog is always hunting. It's always got its nose down and it's in hedges, already doing hunting that it enjoys. But when I went back and explained that this was hunting as a team rather than that self-rewarding, and it was keeping the dog closer and it was keeping it engaged with its owner and therefore under better control, but also having more fun for both of them, because the owner wasn't there going, okay, you've got to come back now, you're too far away, nagging and pestering the dog. And once we'd gone through and worked through it, both the dog and the owner were actually having a brilliant time together.
Yeah, and it's really nice to suddenly see that click, that the owner finally understands what the dog wants to do, and they've almost been allowed into that world by their dog, and they've become this little team and partnership rather than constantly trying to call the dog back or constantly trying to stop the dog from sniffing where it's sniffing. So I think that can be a real massive benefit, not only to relationships, because the dog suddenly, oh, okay, you actually want to be involved with good stuff. I might start listening to you a bit more. The owner suddenly feels slightly empowered that they've got a better control of the dog because they can make it hunt where they want to hunt rather than constantly trying to rein it in. So apart from the sort of hunting and building bonds with that, we also see a lot of people struggling with their dogs obviously wanting to pick things up because, again, part of their breeding is they want to pick things up, and half the time that's not really nurtured how it should be. People get angry that the dogs have picked things up and they chase them around the house trying to get it off them. And then because of the desires in these dogs to actually want to get these things, you end up with a lot of resource guarding happening in these gun dog breeds. Do you see that as well?
I do, yeah, particularly for adolescent dogs that, like you say, they've not had that retrieving desire nurtured and the sharing aspect a little bit. Essentially, when we ask our dogs to pick things up and bring them back, we're also asking them to share that item with us and to do it willingly rather than begrudgingly. And I think it is those, maybe as a puppy, it picked up a child's toy or it picked up the TV remote and then it ran off around the coffee table being chased by its owner. And the dogs thought it was great and the human thought it was really frustrating. And then it escalated a little bit further. So the puppy picked up something or the adolescent dog picked up something and the owner went to take it or grab it or snatch it. And the dog went, actually, this is mine. This is fun and I don't want you to have it. So that then, like you say, leads into the resource guarding. Whereas if we can use their retrieving, their picking up items drive and build that bond with us again, so that we're saying to them, when you've got something, this is great, we will share it together and we will have loads of fun. Then you've got, again, that much better bond, that much better relationship with your dog, but you're not putting yourself or your dog in a position of conflict either. So I don't know, retrieving for me, it's building that retrieving drive. It's less about the item and more about my dog being willing to come into my space and share things with me. But also it goes much further than just go and pick something up or chase a tennis ball as I lob it out my hand. You can get so much more control, directional control, steadiness, much more, many more ways of making the dog think. So that mental stimulation. And again, a job that it enjoys, that high level obedience and just bringing it all into one aspect, one element of the training.
Yeah, people are often shocked when we start to talk about teaching a resource guarder how to retrieve because they're like, that's not really the problem. I don't care if my dog brings things back. I don't want it to guard things. And breaking that down, saying actually your dog picks things up for this reason, but if you teach them what to do with that thing, rather than go, I'm precious, I'm keeping it here, then instantly you can work on the other stuff. Obviously, around that, we work on listening skills and we work on other things as well. But that sharing part and that retrieval that we teach all gun dogs as standard is a massive part of teaching our young, driven dogs that aspect of the value in sharing with us. So it's actually more valuable to them to bring things to us and have some fun rather than go, hey, I'm going to go and hide this, which is a natural sort of trait of a lot of spaniels, especially when they pick something up. They want to go and hide it and stick it somewhere that nobody's going to find it and then guard that area because it's precious. So
It comes back to the whole dog burying a bone in the back garden thing, doesn't it?
yeah, exactly. And I always thought as a kid that was a joke, but clearly not.
I mean, I quite often say to clients when we are teaching retrieving, and either with a previously resource guarding dog or just a dog that needs to learn how to retrieve and how to share, the importance of the item is null and void. It's the fact that the dog wants to come back. So you see a lot of dogs, and I've seen it lead into resource guarding as well, where the dog has brought something back and it's immediately been stolen or snatched from the dog. Whereas when you say to people, look, just give your dog some fuss, give them some touch praise, give them some verbal praise. Don't go anywhere near that item for a minute. Really make your dog aware that he is or she is the most important thing in this moment, it's like a light bulb moment in some people's heads. And again, it's a joy to watch when you see everything come together.
Yeah, and I love it when they come to you like a few weeks later and tell you that their dog's picked up something really manky or really nasty and brought it to them, and they've been like, oh, thank you. Whereas previously they'd have gone off and eaten it or rolled in it or buried it or whatever. And they're almost shocked that has correlated in the dog's head that it actually wants to bring all these precious things to their owner now. Not massively happy owners at that point, but a poo bag on your hand doesn't cause too many issues.
There are definitely moments where my dogs have picked up things and brought them to me, and I've gone, oh, thank you very much. Oh my God, that smells.
Yeah, rancid frogs are the latest ones. They don't smell too great, I have to say. And I did squeal like a girl on one of them, I am ashamed to admit, but I wasn't expecting a frog. Which kind of leads us nicely onto the next topic that I wanted to say, that people come to us and say, I have the idea of gun dog training, but I don't want to touch dead birds and I don't want to deal with all of that side of it. Is that something that you come across quite a lot with people?
I do, yeah. They quite often say to me, I realised that I want to fulfill my dog's natural desires and their genetic instincts and all that, but I don't want to touch dead birds. And that's completely understandable. Some people just don't want to touch fur or feather, and that is completely their choice. But I've said to them essentially that you can take the gun dog training up to the point where we would then introduce fur and feather and potentially even a shot, which I think we're going to come back to later, and stop at that point. You can still have, on a retrieve, you could still have the ability to stop it halfway to a retrieve and redirect it to another item, whether or not it knows it. You can still build up the different types of retrieves. So you've got scene retrieves, memory retrieves, blind retrieves. You can work on the distance. You can work on the distractions and the environment, all still amounts to retrieving. And as we said, retrieving is just one element of gun dog training. So absolutely, if you don't want to touch fur or feather or stinky or rancid things that we've just spoken about, then you don't have to. You can still get probably 98% of a gun dog's training journey under your belt with your dog that you want as your family companion.
How many of those people come along to start with going, I don't want to touch a bird, I don't want to do this, and actually end up going on to do amazing things with their dogs on shoots or competitions or whatever, and they haven't looked back? I think this podcast probably needs to come with a warning that actually, if you do start gun dog training with your dogs, it's addictive and it'll be something that you want to do more of, I promise.
Absolutely. It really is that you start doing it with, I'm just going to dip my toes in, I'm just going to dabble a little bit. And then you go and you see how well you're doing and how much progression you're making. You go, I just want to try the next bit and the next bit and the next bit. And then I can see how good my dog is at it. So actually, maybe I do now want to go on a shoot and take it to the next level. And again, it is so rewarding. So I'm sure you see it, but especially as a trainer, you start with someone that comes into the field and they're like, no, I only want to do X amount. And then when you're pretty much at their original goal, they go, no, I've changed my mind. I like this too much. I'm now thoroughly addicted to it. Cold, wet, muddy fields every weekend. Absolutely, I'm in. Take me further.
And before you know it, you're 4 spaniels deep on your case.
I'm saying nothing.
The other question we get asked, and I think it goes back to sort of tradition and preconceived concepts about what gun dog training is, people saying, will I need to turn up in like tweeds and look like I'm going on a shoot, and will I need to buy a load of stuff? And I think people are quite shocked when we say, no, you just turn up in whatever you'd walk your dog in, with your lead, some treats, a toy. Don't even have to have a whistle if you don't want to. Most people will go on to use a whistle, but you don't need anything specific to do gun dog training with your dog, do you?
You don't. You can teach it all the elements with pretty much what you've got now. All those things we spoke about with retrieving, you could do with the tennis ball if you wanted to. And pretty much, well, most people that own a dog have got a ball or a toy of some description. So you don't even have to go out and buy sort of canvas training dummies if you don't want to. And as far as clothing goes, I think the only thing that I'd recommend really is a good set of waterproofs and a good pair of wellies. Because let's face it, we are in England and it is wet most of the time. But otherwise, whatever you walk your dog in, absolutely fine.
So going back to that other point you mentioned about shot, what if people's dogs are scared of bangs and things? How would we work with them?
So I think there's a number of different ways that you'd work with them. One, if they are absolutely adamant that they are never going to go near a sheep field and it's just completely not for them, then you don't have to worry about the introducing the shot aspect. The other is that we've spoken about this on a podcast before, the difference between gun shy and gun nervous. So a lot of dogs that might be a little bit, oh, what was that about a bang, actually become very good at dealing with shot and happy about it. Certainly my own working dogs, and I'm sure yours are the same. They hear a shot fired or they see me in tweeds and they go, we are on for a cracking day, guys. So they learn to love it. But it's, again, it's down to the owners. And I'm not going to say to someone, if their dog is scared of shot and they don't want to go on a shoot, I'm not going to tell them to come and join a picking up day where shot is involved, because that would be unfair on all of them. But if they want to come to various courses that we offer and you the same, or various days or even one-to-one lessons, we don't have to include shot within those lessons. We can just stop at that certain point, stop at that 98%. And along with not introducing fur or feather, we don't need to introduce shot as well.
Yeah, exactly that. So I think it's myth busting really of what gun dog training isn't. We don't have to make bangs. We don't have to play with feathers and fur and nasty dead things. We don't have to dress like we're going shooting. We can dress in normal clothes that you would wear every day. And it's just debunking those myths, really, of what it is. And I think a lot of people also envisage that gun dog training is very harsh, allowed to have fun. They're not allowed to get away with anything. They're reprimanded quite a lot. And that's just not right, is it?
It's not at all, no. And I think you and I spoke about this the other day. I was talking to someone who had been told that their dog couldn't come in the house, couldn't be touch praised. And it just, I felt so sorry for them when I was talking to them. And at the end of the session, they were hugely grateful that there was another side to it. And it just, I don't know, the old techniques have largely long since died off. There will be a few little pockets here and there, but it's fun, it's rewarding. It's as long as you're using a reward that your dog likes. If your dog's got no need to or no desire to be cuddled out in the middle of a field because it would rather get on with the job, then probably touch praise at that time isn't going to be applicable to it. But tell your dog it's a good dog, or give it a retrieve as a reward, or give it some hunting as a reward. You want to make it fun, not just for you, but for your dog as well. And we're not the harsh industry that a lot of people think we are, I think is probably the best way I could put that.
I think people are often shocked when they come along to our courses and we're absolute wallies and we play around with the dogs and we do fun stuff. And they're like, oh, I just didn't think gun dog training was this. So if you haven't got that bond with your dog and your dog can't see that you are some sort of form of fun, then you aren't going to get very far with encouraging that dog to do stuff. So it is about having fun with your dogs. Yes, there's boundaries around that, and we input steadiness and we input all the other stuff, but it's got to be based on that sort of foundation of fun, hasn't it?
It has, like you say, there are elements of seriousness. There are elements of things that need to be properly taught. The dog has to understand those boundaries. All of my dogs, when I go, even if I'm just going for a walk and not really doing any training, I still want them to stick with me, because we've nurtured this idea that being with me, being around my feet, being in my space is more fun than trying to chase the squirrel up the tree. When you've got that bond and when you've built that play and that fun and that silliness and being a complete wally, like you said, then it helps bring it all together, and you can keep your dogs, or your dog wants to stay within your bubble.
So the other thing I see on social media a lot is, obviously we know that gun dog breeds have exploded in popularity in normal sort of pet homes. So there's cocker spaniels everywhere, there's springers everywhere, labs everywhere, pointers, you name it, they're all in pet homes. And along with that, there's been this sort of drive for enrichment within the home, hasn't there? So there's been a massive influx of snuffle mats and licky mats and toys that your dogs can use to keep their brains engaged by rolling them around the floor and stuff. And as a result, we see a lot of dogs that can't switch off in the house because they're kept stimulated. And bear with me, I know I'm going a little bit rogue. But do you think that actually if those people just did some form of, not even gun dog training necessarily, but some sort of training outdoors that uses those natural drives that their dogs have got, that we could get rid of all of that stuff?
Absolutely, I do. And long since been known, if you like, that 20 minutes of mental stimulation, so keeping the dog active and doing various different bits of training and keeping the dog thinking and getting its brain ticking over and moving, is equal to about an hour of just running around blowing off steam. So it's one of those things that even if you've got a really busy life and you think, but I haven't got time to walk my dog and train my dog, then you can incorporate elements of training into your walk in order to keep it mentally stimulated, focused on you and knowing that you're fun. But also then when it gets home, it will be more tired than if it has just chased other dogs around the park for an hour. And it helps give it the ability alongside the training that we also teach, the settle work, the when we're in the house, it's off switch time. But combine the two and you're onto a winner. You don't then need to keep stuffing these things under the dog's face so that you can cook dinner without tripping over it.
Yeah, and I think probably one of the most common things I say to people when they say, we took it out for a 3-hour walk and it's still on the go and it's this and it's that. If you just exercise their bodies, you are just going to end up with a fitter lunatic. So that dog will be able to go for 6-hour walks and be absolutely bang on it still. So you've really got to make a massive point of working their brains. And like you just said, Sam, 20 minutes of using their brains is probably going to wear them out far more than zooming around hours on end where they're getting fitter. So yeah, I think that's a massive part, and actually using breed sort of specific training so that you are enriching those natural drives in them. You're allowing them to hunt, but in a controlled manner with you, have some fun. You're allowing them to retrieve. You're allowing them to do all these things that they want to do, but in a controlled manner that involves you as a partner is so important and helpful with day-to-day life. So like you say, doing it on a walk, it doesn't have to be a set training session in a field. We've got members that do gun dog training in the middle of London, so there's no sort of place that you can't do it. And I think that brings us on to the other side of it, is the social side, that once you do start doing gun dog training, you meet other people that are like-minded and want to train their dogs, and quite a lot of the ladies in the group end up going and training together. So it's also teaching our dogs to be able to focus on us around other dogs and be around them in that sort of environment and have fun with us. But it's also valuable to get that sort of social interaction from other people that you might not necessarily get. You might always walk your dog on your own and not talk to anyone. So we've known a lot of people form massive friendships from gun dog training, haven't we?
Absolutely. And they make those friendships. Not only do they go and train together, but then they might go and grab a bite of lunch together or a coffee in a cafe or something, bit of training beforehand or bit of training afterwards. But humans are social beings. It helps us mentally to have that social side of life. And if we can incorporate that into our dog training, into our dog walking, fantastic. Going back to what I said just then about going up lunch or going up cafes or stuff, you also can find that partly by keeping your dog mentally stimulated, it's then more tired and so therefore is more likely to sit down quietly under the table while you have a coffee or some lunch. But also various elements of the training will help incorporate self-control and impulse control and all that sort of stuff. Whereas before you might have had a dog that if you took it to a cafe was just totally on tenterhooks going, there's a person come in, there's a cake has walked past me, everything else. Then through the steadiness that we teach and the don't chase everything that we teach, we can then build that into these day-to-day social elements and actually make it more pleasurable an experience when we do take our dogs out to the pub or out to a cafe, because we know that they've got the tools within their arsenal to just lie down, close their eyes and have a snooze.
Exactly that, which again, we can apply to our lives in so many different ways around the house and out and about with them. So I think to round this up, Sam, what would be your main reasons for doing gun dog training with your dog if you've just got a pet dog and you want to get involved with something different?
Essentially, to keep the dog stimulated, to keep the dog using its brain and having a job. So I suppose to stop the dog going rogue and self-employed, which could then lead into problems such as my dog is 4 counties away and it doesn't respond to the recall. But strengthening the bond, building a much, much better relationship for the pair of you that is equally enjoyed, and just building that better partnership so that you can go through life enjoying it.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think the bonding thing is a massive thing. And understanding how your dog is wired. Many people have got these Gundog breeds and they don't really know what they're all about. So I think once you've opened that Pandora's box of why your dog does what it does, instantly, I think it improves your ship massively because you're more on each other's wavelengths. Yeah. That and the massive community that is within Gundog training is huge and on the whole massively welcoming. So my advice would be, if you're on the fence about starting Gundog training with your dog, no matter what its breed is, get out there, get involved with the group, check out the Ladies Working Dog group, because you won't find a friendlier group to get involved with to start your journey. No question is a silly question, but get out and have some fun with your dog. And I would put money on the fact that you will probably get addicted to it and your journey will take you lots of places. So thanks for talking to me today, Sam. I hope you've all enjoyed this podcast and we will see you next week.
That's it for today's episode. A massive thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to head over to the LWDG and sign up for our membership. Get access to expert-led training, a wonderfully supportive community, and the resources you need to become a confident and skilled gun dog trainer. Let's take this journey together, because no woman should have to train her gun dog alone. We'll see you all next week.